What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our Kratom Addiction and Recovery Daily Devotional series. So yesterday we started to dip our toe in the water with the really poetic stuff that's in Job, and we're going to round out this week, today and tomorrow, where we're going to be diving in deep with that. I love like pretty much the whole end of this book, but I really love what we're going to read today, and that is Job chapter 28 verses 1 through 28, and it's going to be a little bit longer of a reading. Okay, and this is titled Interlude, Where Wisdom is Found. There is a mine for silver and a place where gold is refined. Iron is taken from the earth, and copper is smelted from ore. Mortals put an end to the darkness. They search out the farthest recesses for ore in the blackest darkness. Far from human dwelling, they cut a shaft in places untouched by human feet. Far from other people, they dangle and sway. The earth, from which food comes, is transformed below as by fire. Lapis lazuli comes from its rocks, and its dust contains nuggets of gold. No bird of prey knows that hidden path. No falcon's eye has seen it. Proud beasts do not set foot on it, and no lion prowls there. People assault the flinty rock with their hands and lay bare the roots of the mountains. They tunnel through the rock. Their eyes see all its treasures. They search the sources of the rivers and bring hidden things to light. But where can real wisdom be found? Where does understanding dwell? No mortal comprehends its worth. It cannot be found in the land of the living. The deep says, "It is not in me." The sea says, "It is not in me." It cannot be bought with the finest gold, nor can its price be weighed out in silver. It cannot be bought with the gold of Ophir, with precious onyx or lapis lazuli. Neither gold nor crystal can compare with it, nor can it be had for jewels of gold. Coral and jasper are not worthy of mention. The price of wisdom is beyond rubies. The topaz of Cush cannot compare with it. It cannot be bought with pure gold. So where then does real wisdom come from? Where does real understanding dwell? It is hidden from the eyes of every living thing, concealed even from the birds in the sky. Destruction and death say, only a rumor of it has reached our ears. God understands the way to it, and he alone knows where it dwells. For he views the ends of the earth and sees everything under the heavens. When he established the force of the wind and measured out the waters, when he made a decree for the rain and a path for the thunderstorm, then he looked at wisdom and appraised it. He confirmed it and tested it. And he said to the human race, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to shun evil is real understanding. I mean, come on. Come on. Like, if you can't get down with that, like, cool, but come on. Like, that is so beautiful. Like, talking about like the deep places of the earth, and then like comparing the wisdom of, the fear of the Lord to like all of these like precious stones and gold. Like, come on, that is so beautiful. So like, what's the point of this? Yes, it's beautiful poetry, but like, what's the point of this? The point of it is like, what is real wisdom? And it concludes at the end of this beautiful poetry that the fear of the Lord, that is real wisdom, and to shun evil is real understanding. So like, let's break it down. Like, what is this all about? Just like when we were talking about submission earlier this week, there are things that can be kind of hard for people to understand, for us to wrap our minds around. They can be kind of like a turnoff for a lot of people. And I think that the fear of the Lord is one of those things. I don't know about, for you. But when I first started learning about it, excuse me, getting over a cold, as I said yesterday, so I apologize if I have a little cough here and there. But when I learned about the fear of the Lord and like what that was all about, I started to get it. And so we're going to talk about that. Like, okay, so I'm going to start breaking it down from the beginning. Like, there are some things that are so powerful and that have such authority that we need to have a healthy fear of them. What is a healthy fear? We should go break it down even further. Like, what is fear? You know, it says in the Bible, I think it's like, I forget how many hundreds of times, to fear not. There's different types of fear. You know, fear that we have of, you know, whatever it may be, the future, you know, something happening to our family, something happening to our health, you know, phobias, anxieties. That is a type of fear that the Lord instructs us over and over again to not have. But then there is a healthy fear of something. And what that means is that, like we were just, you know, starting to say, that there are some things that are so powerful and that have such authority that having a healthy fear is literally like the foundation of wisdom. So what does that look like and what does that mean? When I first started learning about it, it was explained like this. And this hits really close to home for me because I've had a couple experiences, near-death drowning experiences that have happened because of this. That like, okay, the ocean is beautiful. The ocean is, you know, so much fun to swim in. The ocean is great to be by, but the ocean is powerful. And to have a healthy fear of the ocean where we're not just going to haphazardly, you know, run out and swim in the ocean where there's a big storm going on, obviously. But like, you know, even still, like, I grew up on the East Coast by the ocean, and there was like a way that you needed to like learn how to like be like swim and be in the ocean. Like you had to kind of learn like these guidelines on like how to swim with the waves, which ones to dive under, when to not go in the ocean, when it was not safe. So that's a way of describing a healthy fear of something where, like, you know, it's in our best interest to have a healthy fear of the ocean, because if we do not respect it and if we don't follow these guidelines on how to interact with it, it can be very dangerous. We can also look at like, it's good to have a respect and a healthy fear of our parents where we respect their authority. Some of us didn't have the type of parents that we, you know, were able to do that with, but like in a healthy situation with healthy parents, having that healthy fear of our parents where we respect their authority and we, you know, fear the consequences if we, you know, don't obey them. That's a healthy fear. And so that's what, you know, the fear of the Lord is all about too, where like God is sovereign, God is all powerful, all knowing, is in control of our lives. And having a healthy fear of him is wisdom, basically. Because I've lived my life, I'll share a little bit of my experience. I lived a big part of my life where I had a complete disregard for God. I was in New Age beliefs. I was smoking weed. I was in my kratom addiction in the beginning before I returned to Christ. And I had a complete disregard for God. And I paid the consequences for that. And so now, as I'm in this point in my walk and in my faith and in my relationship with God, having that healthy fear is so important. And it's for our protection as well. It's not only, you know, for our own wisdom and our own better good, but it's for our protection. Because, you know, how this ends up taking shape and what we're thinking and how it like actually plays out in our lives is that, like, you know, when I'm faced with a decision between right and wrong, I have that healthy fear of God in the back of my mind all the time, that like, okay, if I do this thing, it's not going to play out well, and there's going to be consequences to that. And I do fear the consequences that God will lay out for me if I go against something that I shouldn't be doing. And so that's an example of having a healthy fear. Pride is something that all of us struggle with all the time, whether or not you want to admit it. And so, humbling ourselves before God and having that healthy fear, and not allowing ourselves to get too prideful. I have a healthy fear of becoming too prideful all the time. It's really easy as you start getting into recovery and you start feeling better and better and better, and you're doing more and more and more. And then you realize, like, oh, wait a second, I'm not humbling myself before God the way that I was when I was in the depths of my addiction. And so that's something that I have a healthy fear of the Lord as well when it comes to pride. So I explain this because, it talks about, like, what is real wisdom, and the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to shun evil is understanding. What that means is that, like, when we turn away from what is not right, what is not cool, from, our addictions, from our sin, from our pridefulness, from our dishonesty, all of these things, when we turn away from that, when we turn away from, like, the wickedness of this world, that is understanding. And it's easy to get caught up in things. I'm not even preaching right now. Please don't get me wrong. I'm passionate about this, but I'm not being preachy. I'm not saying, oh, don't do this, don't do that. It's not about that. It's sharing where I'm coming from. And I tell you guys all the time, like, I'm in recovery with you. I'm not doing these videos from a place of authority. I'm doing these videos in community with you. And so I'm telling this to myself too, and I'm going through it myself, where, like, to shun evil is understanding. Like, that can be a turn off too, where we start talking about, like, evil and repentance and sin and all that kind of stuff. It can be a really big turn off for people. But, like, in layman's terms, it means just, like, turning away from, like, the things that we do that are not cool. And that's where real understanding and real growth comes from, especially in our addiction and recovery process. Because when we're able to turn away from this addiction, like, that brings, like, man, like, going through this recovery process, you guys, like, because I'm still, I'm always going to be in recovery. I was addicted to kratom. I'm always going to be in recovery from it. I may be 3 years out and feeling better, but, like, I will always be in recovery. And so I went through that. I went through the being addicted to this stuff and then turning away from it. So I'm sharing, what I went through, and I'm still learning. I'm still growing. So I'm not saying, like, oh, I have complete understanding because I turned away from kratom. All of it is a process that I'm learning through, but, like, the understanding and the wisdom that I've gained through going through this process has just been absolutely amazing, and all glory to God. Just to say that too, and all, it's all by the grace of God that I've been able to do this. So I encourage you to think about that. I encourage you to think about, like, what the fear of the Lord looks like for you, like, a healthy fear, like, what that's about, and, finding wisdom, finding understanding through this addiction and recovery process. And I encourage you to let us know how you're doing in the comments section below, and I will see you tomorrow as we wrap up this week in this beautiful, poetic part of Job. Okay, love you guys. See you then. Bye.